Grant Whittaker moves Britain. He's the new removals director at UK giant Pickfords. Last year they moved 50,000 families into their new homes. But the housing market is hard to predict and competition is intense. Now Whittaker's taken on the challenge of transforming this traditional £50 million removals business.
I'm new to this role. I have a brief to look at the business and to drive change forward. What I want to make sure is that I'm changing in the right direction.
But Whittaker's never been on a removal van in his life. He spent his whole career in computers. As Pickford's former IT boss, he's more used to fiddling with his mouse than flexing his muscles. Now, to find out how to improve the business, he's going to spend a week as one of his own removal men. How will he cope with heavy lifting? The customers.
Unfortunately, you've put the client off.
And the staff.
So what would you do if you want to knock you in there?
I'd probably buy Pickfords, sack all the directors and managers, now I might get a full-time job.
Will a taste of life at the sharp end help him transform his business? First, it's goodbye to his wife, Rosemary.
So what's your plans once you're up there then?
That's my work.
You're talking about your back.
Nothing wrong with my back, yeah.
And your vitamins. You must take your vitamins. I think you need really all the help you can get.
Well, thanks for the confidence. I'm feeling quite nervous this morning, I think. I'm not really feeling like, I'm up to a day's physical hard work.
The boss is leaving the London suburbs behind to join the men on the vans at one of his 85 depots in Birmingham.
He can stay the pace all day, he'll be all right. He's got to stay the pace, hasn't he?
I suppose they don't know we're going to be someone that's very aloof and autocratic and trying to tell them what to do, or they'll have a perception of what the director of the business is like.
The top directors, you don't get to see them at all. The only times we get to see them is, as I say, when we're reading about them in the monthly magazine.
Pickford's Birmingham depot covers the whole of the West Midlands with 13 vans, an office of salesmen and backup staff, and 25 removal men who do the hard graft.
That's an aerial map again, an helicopter.
These are the men that you're going to be working with today. We've got Lenny there.
Morning.
Morning, sir. How you doing?
Grant tonight.
Righty,
Not too bad. You've got Roddy here. He's the older one of the crew, so this is one you've got to look after.
Are you going to look after me, I hope?
No.
I'll enjoy it.
Morning, how's you got a friendly again?
Right tonight and be dirty and broken in.
Ron, you can have it when he's finished with it.
Well, mate.
There's your changing room in there. Yeah. And there's your men.
Beautiful.
Pickford's challenge is to move as many customers as possible. Every job is up against the clock. On his first removal, Whittaker will have to empty a whole house by lunchtime.
So what last minute tips you got for me then?
Well, just take it in your stride, we'll show you. Now, I usually sing on the way to the job, is that all right?
Keen to pull his weight, Whittaker gets stuck in.
Stand that way, look.
But less than an hour into the job, there's a hold-up.
Geordie, you got first aid kit? I've just cut a thing in the wardrobe.
I'll have a look.
We use some sticky tape, yeah? Yeah. Well, that won't come off anyway.
Good advertisement.
What are these stairs?
The customers want to be out by noon. Keeping up the pace is taking its toll on the ex-computer man.
That ramp's getting steeper every time you come up it.
One took it in mind.
Have a quiet breather while they don't notice. Come on my way.
12 o'clock and there's still one last thing to move.
Come on, Hercules. You can sort this out. Yeah. You just have the top, look. You just let us learn how to see it. If you have this side, Grant, Now this side. Say when you're ready. 10 every. Yeah. Ready? Lifting? You all right, Grant?
You say tie him?
Nah, see. You have the white now, Jordan. We're putting it on the floor.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Hang on, Mike.
Well, you got the white now.
Fine. A bit heavy, this. Well, it's not really that heavy. What do you do for an encore?
Finally, they're off. It's 12:20, but luckily the customer's luxury new home is only a mile away, so they should get back on schedule.
Feet hurt from the steel toe caps for digging your toe. I've got a cut finger, but that's not a problem because that's superbly dealt with. My back aches.
You got no chance.
I've got main roads yet.
You can have a job getting this round. You ain't going to get this round.
I'm going to get this one, dear. No wheels yet. Let's see where it went. Anyone check this? Check the delivery destination.
Don't. Just leave it to us. Winging a prayer half the time.
All removals depend on the salesman who visits to price the job and see how long it will take. The new boy is not impressed by the unexpected snag.
They turn up there, don't know what they hit until they get it. It's superb, isn't it?
What's that say, Lakeland?
Then the next customer's waiting for them, gets irate because they're late. What else can the guys do? They're working their guts out. They turn up late and the next customer's upset. Back to the sales guys, I guess, for making sure that we assess the destination before we get there.
Eventually, after a struggle, the unhappy crew finally make it in. A quick start, and it's time to grab lunch with Lenny and Geordie.
What do you think of me so far then, Grant?
Bloody hard work.
Which is a good day, lots of things, right?
You keep telling me how simple this job is. So it's enjoyable work, but it's hard. I've definitely got blisters on my feet now.
You will have, yeah?
I've got them now.
You will have by the end of the week.
How much are you two guys earning?
What do you earn an hour as a driver?
£4.42 an hour.
I'm on £4 an hour.
We can work anywhere between 60, 70 hours a week.
You've got them at 60, you come out with £200 a week. Can we ask you what you earn a year?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
No.
Well, I'll tell you what you're earning a year, 64,000.
Tell you what, you're going to do all the work this afternoon, dog.
I don't know how much I earn now.
Oh, certainly, I'll work that out, don't worry, I'll be that on the way back. More than £4 an hour, I'll guarantee you that. What motor you got?
BMW.
Oh my God!
Top of the range.
Yeah.
You never drive it like this, you know?
BMW. Oh, word.
Higher up the ladder should be Skoda. Sales reps and whatnot rely on Robbins.
Feeling more comfortable with the boss, Lenny has a complaint. He's worked for Pickfords for 10 years, but he still doesn't have a full-time job.
Well, at our depot, we've got all the drivers. Is there 10 drivers? And there's two porters, two full-time porters, that's it. Now, everyone else is out like outside or casual. I'm on a casual. I'm not regular. No, I'm good.
Really casual, huh?
There's two regulars at our place, that's it. 8 or 9 of us in that depot reserve contracts. If I had contracts, they'd be more interested in coming to work every day. Because half the time I'm not interested, to tell you the truth. That's the true answer. I get up some days and go, what's it really worth it? I'm going to be doing this probably whatever till 45. You still ain't got a full-time job. Ridiculous.
The ups and downs of the housing market make staffing difficult, but Whittaker's surprised by Lenny's revelations.
If you didn't know his employment conditions and you knew how long he'd been here and you look at the quality of his work, you'd say he's one of our top people. For us to employ him in a way which makes him feel undervalued or demotivated, it's got to be wrong, and we have to address it.
He can't quite get the hang of the doors, but at least he's made it through his first day.
I feel knackered, really tired. My feet are my biggest worry. Oh, it's just nice to have them off.
The next day starts with more back-breaking work for Whittaker.
Well, sir, you took all the tree. You all right? Oh! No? Good.
It's a table worth £3,000.
You all right? We've got a top as well.
Yeah. Got a top as well.
The top's a bit bigger. I don't do tops. If you've got it. You're comfortable? Yep. You feel that? Yep.
The solid marble top's even heavier.
We said we were right for it. Yep. Right, you just give us a steady down. Yeah, I'm with him. Right.
You're taking a top round?
Yeah. Right on, eh? Actually, when you was going backwards, I know I should have told you that when you come to a front door, it's always got a step, hasn't it? Well, it does where I live, anyway.
You shouldn't have seen anything, Lenny. I know nothing.
You're with it. That's better. Just a beer. That's a bit stronger, yeah? You only used half a bottle of milk this time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. So what would you do if you won the lottery then, Lenny?
I'd probably buy Pickfords, sack all the directors and managers, and then I might get a full-time job. That'll be all right, wouldn't it?
You give me a job in the vans, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I might do, if you're lucky. Casual. You manage on that £4 an hour, you'd be all right, wouldn't you?
Every hour means extra money for Lenny, and another crew need help on a job.
Couple of settees, television, double bed, 2 singles, probably an armchair.
One wardrobe this month.
One wardrobe, and a safe.
This one.
It's yet another test of strength for Whittaker.
Kids are right.
Right, Grant. Good. Watch your back.
Okay.
200 kilos of metal to get down the stairs.
It's going to bounce off the steps.
They do have a trolley, but it's no use on the staircase.
Really, we wanted our new barrow on this. Put it slid down. These are no good.
Well, not strong enough.
Nah.
You haven't got sliders, you haven't got the step sliders.
On the new aluminium one, you've got sliders on your new aluminium ones.
Same thing, isn't it?
I'll show you one when we get there.
Back at the depot, Lenny proudly shows Whittaker the perfect answer, but head office refuses to buy them.
So what I want about these, Grant? The different ones.
Although they're more expensive, the local manager buys a few when he can afford it, but there aren't enough to go round.
Imagine a staircase, you slide that down the stairs like that.
Good, aren't they?
Yeah, they're bang on. They're a lot better than the metal ones.
So every Dane should have one.
I think so, yeah. Definite.
Okay, we'll see then.
Yep.
Having spent the day moving customers, Whittaker's keen to return to the office where they handle customer calls. He offers to have a go himself.
Yes, can you just on a note?
Unfortunately, you've cut the client off. Never mind.
I didn't even get her name either.
Maybe she'll ring back.
How much did that cost?
Never mind.
It's stressful in here, isn't it?
Not the best of starts, but Whittaker has another go.
Would you like to have a go at email to the client that you just took on?
Pickers and movers and storage, good afternoon, how can I help you?
This time the caller wants information about an overseas move. International inquiries are handled by the call centre set up just a year ago at the Enfield head office.
£905, right. Can you just hold 1 minute, please, and I'll get back to you. You gave a rough price for someone to move from Birmingham to Seattle?
Natalie tries to put Whittaker's customer through to head office.
All the lines are busy at the moment. This is frustrating, really frustrating. They haven't got enough people to answer.
So just forget me, taking me out of the loop, but this customer's coming through. speak to someone here and explains what they want. And then you've got to get through. You feel like you have to get them through and you go through it all again.
I don't really think that this call centre is working. I mean, they haven't got enough people for a start down there, and they haven't got enough people with knowledge of the business. I mean, earlier on today, I had a client that phoned me that had already had a quote from Enfield. She'd rung straight through to Enfield. They put her on hold and transferred her straight through to us. Which is...
It's supposed to be the other way around.
Whittaker will get back to communications later, but today the local vicar is on the move. Reverend Hammersley is going to Herefordshire, and all his knickknacks need careful packing.
It's not just leaving the house, is it?
No, it's
Leaving everybody, really, that's the problem.
Yes, they have lovely
Maybe a
parties.
farewell party there.
There's been a wonderful entertainment.
Yeah.
Poems written and songs are being written and children performed and Mothers Union,
nice.
Ladies Fellowship, everybody did their bit.
I don't know how we got there. I'm sitting in the car.
Really was one of that divorce, the two most traumatic things.
We're not planning to do
A lot.
This looks a bit special, Andy. So what do I do with that? You actually pack some of the small...
Whittaker finds his partner today, Andy, is yet another casual.
And enrolled in paper, and it's protected like that.
Okay. So how long have you been with Pickfords anyway?
I've been here about 5 years altogether.
So you're permanent?
No, I'm actually, because I'm waiting for my contract to be signed.
How long have you been working for?
About the last 6 months at the moment.
Probably slide out the bottom. You're sliding out.
Reverend Hammersley says a final goodbye to his church. All his belongings have fitted comfortably into the van. But although this job's gone smoothly, the key is estimating, and it can often go wrong.
Some of the estimates are, well, if you go out there, you put it up straight away. I mean, many a time Brian's had to get another van out. Many a time.
If the estimator's got it wrong, then it's not the customer's fault. So you can't take it out on the customer.
And it's nothing to do with the car.
No.
Is it?
I mean, it's really nothing to do with us either, but we get the rap most of the time.
To try to find out what can go wrong, Whittaker decides to have a go at estimating himself.
Doesn't what I have to do to look like a salesman. How does a salesman look? Perhaps I needed a louder shirt and tie or something. This is Alistair, who's with me today. I think you know I'm a trainee.
Although the customer thinks he's just a trainee, salesman Alistair knows he's got the boss along.
Right, okay, so everything resumed going, I presume, is it?
These are the ones that are left.
The salesmen have to work out what needs packing, how many men will be needed, how long it will take them, and how big a van is required. Alistair is keen to see Whittaker have a go.
You think you use drawers and cupboards here, presumably?
Yeah, we're specialists for food and cooking sauces and cooking things.
Okay.
So there's focus on it. And that's it really.
Has the boss got his sums right?
So, you ready for this? Go on then. Overall volume, 1,200 cubic feet. Right, well, I actually anticipate there's more likely to be 1,800. Okay. Give or take half a van. Half a van or so.
One thing that you didn't do is you didn't ask to look inside the cupboards.
Right.
Now, for all we know, these cupboards might be absolutely full to the gunnels, and depending on that, will affect the overall volume.
Sure.
So cupboards really need to be looked into. That's everything in here. If we go into the lounge and dining room, we can see where else we forgot to look into cupboards.
Lead on.
Estimating is more difficult than Whittaker thought.
When we're doing 8 or so calls a day, you're thinking of your next call before you finish your first one, and you omit things sometimes.
clients don't tell you the whole truth. It's in the loft, I think it's a classic.
You mentioned to me when we were just chatting somewhere that a couple of years ago you spent the week in the van.
Yeah.
I get a strong feeling that if all of our salespeople spent more regular time in the vans, keeping them in touch, I'm not talking about huge amounts of time, it might be, 2 days, twice a year or something.
Very good idea, but at the same time I'd also then say that the lads on the van should then come out onto this side of the job as well, and see what it's like trying to do 8 calls a day.
I think the communication between the sales and operations side is one of the most interesting areas. And Alistair coming up with a thought which hadn't occurred to me about getting some of the guys out on the road doing sales calls with him. I thought it was an excellent idea. And I think just encouraging them to do that will get some balance. I mean, you can't just criticise the sales guys and say they've got to come out in the vans. You've got to do it on the other side. So I think we'll definitely be doing that.
Having decided that improving communications is a top priority, Whittaker goes back on the road. He's been called to help out on a difficult job. It's a removal man's nightmare. The furniture won't fit through the front door. It's got to come down a ladder. There's only one man for the job.
Right, Grant, up you come. You need to twist it towards me. Let me have the ladder. Let me have it. Come down, Grant.
The sofas defeated him. But can he win back the crew's respect and manage the wardrobe?
Next in the wrong place. Hang on a minute. Okay, I'm all right. Now, twist him now. Twist him. Okay. Yeah, we got him. Well done.
That's scary, because the weight comes down on you, pressing on your head or on your shoulder, and it's twisting slightly, but you've got to come down at the same time, because you can't push it back because the gravity's pushing you down, so you have to go with it. It's not the same thing to do, but an experience.
We just passed anchor, didn't we? Yeah. So that was it. Come up to the island, turn right.
On to the next job.
Up to the next island, turn left. Got a phone number on it then?
They're not quite sure where it is, and they need to find out.
So how do you normally contact the office if you want to find out what's happened on this job?
Look for the nearest phone box. That's what they could do, the lot of the drivers. Mobiles, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Mobile phones.
I do honestly think it'd make it life easier if we did have them.
Back at the depot at the end of the day, Whittaker wants to discuss the communications problem with Brian, the operations manager.
Ruler. Yeah. Yeah, we had a Bristol van that should have been here 8 o'clock, and he's only just rolled in. So we've had to move vans to cover his job, which is a job to Cardiff.
When did you actually know he was going to be that late?
We didn't get contact till dinner time. That's when he made contact.
Well, he phoned here.
Yeah.
From the phone box.
Yeah. So he surfaced at lunchtime. So
Telephones are a headache for Brian as well as the removal crews. It's a much bigger problem than Whittaker thought.
So you're sitting there, it's 9:30, it should have been 8 o'clock. You start redeploying resources, thinking any minute you could pull into the yard, but you don't know because you've got no way of contacting you.
No. The communication side of it is where we are falling down. Sometimes we might have a crew working over in Stratford-upon-Avon, and we've got another crew in Leamington Spa. The Stratford-Avon crew's finished, and they're on the way back. The other ones ring in. We could save a hell of a lot of diesel by diverting them to that rather than sending them back out again. Yeah.
Right, I promise we'll take that on board, we'll do something.
Yeah. With the facility there to phone, it saves a hell of a lot of diesel.
It's Whittaker's last day, and his final removal before he heads back to the top.
This has been tremendously worthwhile for me from many angles, I think. I can see now much more clearly several areas where we can make a tangible difference to the business, and we can do it fairly quickly. Generally, I think I feel a greater responsibility, particularly to the guys, to make things happen, to help support them in the job they're trying to do. So, Lenny, what did you think I'd be like before I came?
Basically, I thought you'd be crap.
So lived up to that one then?
Well, no, you've done very well. You've listened, that's what I like. I thought a typical
Management.
well, typical high up in the company. You just sit on notice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you have and you listen. You know exactly what we have to do every day now.
With his new knowledge, Whittaker returns to head office and his management team.
So if we talk about communication, personally, because that came out very, very strongly in just about every area of the business. The obvious solution to communication is mobile phones. Yeah? I only looked at it before we bought because all we can see is the cost side of it. You know, I'm totally convinced now of the benefits of there in the business. So I think we really now got to bite the bullet and move on that. Another area we need to look at, which again is really about support, is the way we are tending now to pass customers around the place. You know, I sat in the office and took some calls and watched Natalie take some calls and said, I'll just have to put you through to our international centre in Enfield, and then she can't get through because all the phones are engaged.
So is that a telecoms issue, or is that a people arms and legs issue downstairs?
I think it's an arms and legs issue and a telecoms issue, and I think it's also a training issue.
Yeah.
I want to move on to something I possibly feel more strongly about this than anything else, and that's the people themselves that we've got out there. I was actually embarrassed, to be honest, to talk to a guy who seemed to be one of the top men we've got. Had all the skills, all the experience, dedicated to the business, and he was a casual. He wasn't permanently employed by the business. And when I spoke to him about that, made him feel undervalued and demotivated. Now, I know we've got this major issue in terms of the seasonality of the business and our permanent workforce and what the mix is, but I think we've got it wrong at the moment. Because these guys are key to our business. And we've got to look very hard at this and very quickly to identify, particularly who the people are, and what the level should be on a branch-by-branch basis. That's a strong word to use, but I think we're exploiting some of these people, because without them we'll be dead.
All the depots now have new modern trolleys. The vans are being fitted with mobile phones, and Pickfords has launched a full-scale review of casual staff. Lenny and Andy have already been given full-time jobs.
When I go out and visit branches in the future, I'm not going to go there and visit with my suit on. I'll go and visit them with a uniform and a boot and go out with some of the guys and see what's going on. And that's where I learn most.